Today I'm not going to give an overview of all of the interesting articles in the New York Times, but I do want to talk about two articles which represent long-term trends, years, whether it's 5 years, 10, or 25 years from now, when the inevitable happens, you'll be able to point to these two articles to say that you saw it coming. The first article is entitled, Lenders Return to Big Mailings on Credit Cards. The article describes how banks and credit card companies are once again increasing their offers of credit cards to many Americans, including people with poor credit scores or who have had trouble or records of defaulting on loans in the past. Of course, nobody has forgotten that it's this wild, reckless lending that was one of the major or the major contributor to the bubble years and the eventual giant economic crash from 2008. But only 2 years out and the trends are reoccurring. Only this time it's better because the banks are not only issuing these credit cards in increasing numbers, but they are this time charging higher interest rates and in more cases annual fees. So it's an even worse deal for the borrowers. The banks and the credit card companies claim that they are being more cautious this time because they're making fine distinctions about why people have poor credit scores or why they might have defaulted on loans in the past, and they're using these fine distinctions to avoid giving credit card offers to the riskier borrowers. But A, I don't believe that. B, even if it's true now, once they get addicted to this money, they're going to just start relaxing those lending standards and expanding the offering of credit cards, and we're going to be all right back to where we were in a giant bubble, which will collapse once again. And you can consider that the next economic crisis or just part two of the current one. An interesting little number, though, to give perspective, the article cites data that in 2010, this year, there will be 2.5 billion credit card offers issued, whereas during the peak in 2005, there were 6 billion credit card offers issued. So we're way below the peak, but think about it, 6 billion credit card offers were made in 2005. There's 6 billion people in the world, and a tiny percentage of those people received credit card offers, of course mostly Americans, which is a very tiny percentage. Imagine how many different credit card offers must have come to each and every American to come up to the number of 6 billion in the entire year. Unbelievable. Anyway, when the economic crash occurs or reoccurs, you can point to this article to say you saw it coming. The other article is about how Japan is going to announce a shift in military priorities. Currently, they're focusing heavy armor and artillery pointed north toward Russia, which seems such a quaint little old military strategy. But now they're going to reposition their military, including more mobile units directed toward the threat of China in the region. So when the World War III occurs, whenever that is, it could be 10, 15, 25, 30 years from now, who knows, you can point to that article to show how way back in 2010 the seeds for that war were starting to lay out. There's a whole bunch of other interesting articles in here that bode ill for the future of the world. Christians are fleeing new violence in Iraq. There's a very good article, it's a very simple article describing the problems, economic problems that China might be facing from overheating. That could lead very well link itself very well to the Japan article that I mentioned, because if China does collapse, economic collapse is one of the good reasons that countries go to war. So if you want to understand China, that happens to be a simple, well-written article in the business section of today's New York Times that I recommend you reading. We have an article here explaining what's obvious to everyone who lives in LA, which is there are too many homeless people in the city and no one's doing anything about it. It's good to see that that's finally making some press and maybe we'll fix it. Sadly, 6,000 homeless veterans populate the streets of Los Angeles. What a disgrace. After all these years and all these decades and all these promises, we still have 6,000 veterans in Los Angeles alone living in the streets. I don't know why we send people to war and then kick them into the curb when they get back. That's enough for now. Thanks for watching.